Let's talk briefly about Momodora. I recently finished this game and I thought, dang. Well, it's good, and everyone seems to agree on this critically, so I don't really have anything unique to say about it, and I thought I would just leave it there. But then the internet happened, and yea, once again, the elixir of hatred that powers my rhetoric overfloweth. But before we get there, let's just talk about my general opinion of the game. Well, actually, before we get there, I have to apologize about my amateurish capture here. See, the game doesn't actually run at the resolution you're going to see. The game runs in a dinky 320 by 240, which is about yay big. I didn't capture it appropriately at something like this. I stretched it to 1080p. Don't be like me. Stay smart, stay in school, don't do drugs unless you're sure you won't get caught. First thing I want to talk about is 2D melee combat. It shows in this game that some thought was put into keeping it fun and fair. It's a personal area of interest for me. I'll probably talk about it in all games for all time, forever. At first whack, it seems like every enemy is their own hitbox, so you avoid trying to touch them. But at second glance, there's something more interesting going on here. Hitboxes stick to telegraphed attacks, mostly. You can also place bad guys into a staggered, non-damaging state with a good whack. This makes melee a lot more manageable. Granted, there are a couple of unpredictable behaviors that happen with this every so often. For example, everything seems to have a hitbox when it's not paying attention, or maybe just on the back of it. This threw me for a loop at first, but then again, maybe I should be approaching more problems with the back of my head. But the bottom line is the game flows like water. It's put together really solidly, you know? It's really smooth. And I guess those are two competing metaphors, but I'm sure there's some kind of cross-section there where that can be made to work. Like a dam. A nice quality hydroelectric dam with a lot of bells and whistles and junk. The Momodora series has always had this kind of cutie pie anime aesthetic, but this one also rolls a nice vampire-y Victorian flavor into it, to include knights, clergy, and the royalty. A real uptight kind of demographic. Which, actually, while we're on the subject of the background details, it's kind of weird. As much character and thought out, plot as there is here, I didn't feel like I got given the time to fully develop as I was expecting. Every character seems to kind of wink into existence for about 5 minutes and then fade out into the background. Like you, what's your story? Why don't you tell it to me? It's especially noticeable because these characters make such a strong impression in such a short amount of time. Man, they packed a lot of details in everywhere. Look at that. That's a stained glass window back there. Oh shit! She's got music powers, this is real. I'm sure everyone in their whole extended family has said by now, but the game has some small flaws to list. For me, it's a bit on the short side, capping out at maybe 3-4 hours on a nice leisurely playthrough. This map is not going to lose you for a whole afternoon, unless you're the kind of person who could get lost in a Walmart. I suppose the short length goes some distance to explaining the lack of detail or resolution for some of these characters. I'll get back to that in a second. The other weird thing that sticks out is the sometimes perplexing, script? Wait a second, did I read that right? There's no way I read that right. Now that Her Highness popping. Well, it sounds like you have no chance to survive. Make your time. If you want to stay safe, don't leave outside. Don't leave outside. Does that mean stay outside? I want to say localization or translation, but the developers seem to speak English, and their webpage is using American IP space, so I don't know. Anyway, the game is great for what it is. It's a fun, bite-sized adventure that comes together to be more than the sum of its parts. Let's get to the after party. So recently, the developers revealed a teaser for Momodora 5. Or I guess that would be Momodora V for my Roman friends and countrymen in attendance this evening. The big reveal here is the series switched to 3D. Neat. But this is a major change, and you know how people feel about change. Unfortunately, the Wayback Machine won't document gang wank for posterity, so I can't give you any exact examples. Suffice it to say the discussion on the announcement is, well, complete for all time. There are two perspectives on this situation. I mean, first, the teaser does look a little rough, so some of the negative reaction is understandable. From the developer's point of view, this game is years away and still a work in progress. To quote them, showing extremely early builds of things they work on was always a matter of course, so maybe this is the first time they've had a sizable audience for it. I suppose that stands to reason, given there are 3 times as many owners for Momodora 4 as there are for Momodora 3. But speaking about Momodora 3 for a second, it's the reason I'm not surprised to see these developers branch out and try new things. If you pick up Momodora 3, you'll see that it shares a lot of similarities with 4, but is designed in a more linear fashion. So while expanding and polishing combat, they also switched to a Castlevania approach. I'm saying there's similarities, but all of the divergences are big expansions and improvements. Surprisingly so. It's basically like if I took a bunch of pottery classes and then I was like, alright boys, alright. We ready to make this motherfucking building or what? So with what they had done in the past, I fully expected 5 to be an expansion, improvement on 4, if a little bit different. But I could see how that would let down people who just want more of the same, especially when you look at it being a switch from 2D to 3D. That's a rough one. Man, historically, that's the fountain of youth that some people are still looking for. Doing this Frankenstein kind of dance every few years like, oh man boys, we got it for sure this time. Basically, people that were just looking for more of the same were so outspoken and disappointed about it that it prompted the developers to say exactly that. Whew. Spicy. Alright, well I hope you're ready for the bottom line, because here it comes. I still wasn't ready to respond to this situation in general until I saw this. Some doubts arising as a result of all the feedback. Now granted, my nose really don't belong here or in this business, but let me just say this. This is an old saying. You can't please anyone. Actually, I'm sorry, that's a personal motto. The actual saying is you can't please everyone. And I'll give you proof. The first thing I ever heard about Momodora was people complaining that 4 wasn't the same thing as 3. I can't believe people feel that way when almost every aspect of 4 is polished over 3, but people still feel that way. There's gonna be stragglers. What can you do? My other good reason for taking a wait and see on this is something I saw the developers say that only gives me optimism. To paraphrase, someone was asking them why the game was so hard, lol, and they said, I didn't try to make it hard. I just tried to make it fun to play. Those same words, Captain. Those same words. Whenever I find those, I know. And you know. Yeah, you know. This whole situation would seem to be the result of success bringing more attention than expected, and thus, of course, more doubt. But more and more these days, whenever I try to do something, here is what I think. I think, what is the point of success if it doesn't mean you get to do what you want to do? That's my thoughts. You know, if it were up to me, I would say take them and pick a cliche. Believe in yourself, stay the course. Picture is worth 1,000 words. A washpot never boils. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. I still don't actually understand that one, to be honest. If somebody asks you to fix something, there's about a 70% chance it's not even turned on.